Hi, I'm Ellen from Ochre Okra. This is Chioma, my business partner, daughter, constant companion, and we are here at the beautiful lodge today. We're doing a series of work at this beautiful heritage home to try and use some permaculture solutions to bring in a bit of extra income so that the owners can continue the work on it and retire at the same time. So to start with, we're currently renting out this little front room here where the boxes are, and we're selfishly working on our little kitchen garden at the moment. So we started some work here yesterday. So we're taking over this little gravel area that was used as a fire pit barbecue area at some point, and Chrissy, one of the owners, has part of her succulent collection here, and we have started to move some of our things. So this is part of my root and roll renting garden bed product that I'm working on. So made of an old filing cabinet. So the raised garden bed itself here is using a 4-drawer filing cabinet, and rather than get rid of these, I started using them to raise seedlings in from seed, and these ones are all very overdue to go into an actual garden bed. So, and they've moved to 2 different houses. So we've got some lettuce and some peas, snow peas there. Got some beetroot, those are both leaves ready to go. We've got some green and purple cabbage here that all need to be transplanted, move quite far away from each other. We'll see if they survive the transplanting. And then we've got some broccoli here, same thing. We'll see how they go. They might be a bit too established to move happily, but we'll see how that goes. So yesterday we did a bit of work here. So we started by building a wooden base with caster wheels so that the product will move. And I was initially thinking of, in the base here, we don't want this whole thing to be full of soil because it will be so heavy. So I was initially I got these plastic bottles to try out. We didn't quite have enough, and also we actually collect those and take them to the return and earn, and have put that little bit of money aside. So we think of that as Chioma's money. So I didn't really want to put, $100 worth of bottles into the bottom of this, although that would work quite light and be quite light. As you can see, this area has at least this year's worth of leaves, if not last year's as well. And we had some old cane rattan furniture here that had completely rotted. So I've broken up those chairs and popped them in the bottom of this to start a sort of Hugelkultur mixture. And then I've topped that up and filled up some of the spaces with this leaf litter. So what that looks like right now. So we've moved the front of the cabinet down to the level that we want the soil to be at. And then we're going to put some rare mesh on top, and then some form of material to form the base for the soil. So I'll probably use hessian, which, yes, it'll rot away eventually, but easy to replace at some point. But you could also use old shade cloth, or if you were really fancy and had the money or had the expertise, connections to get some, you could use some of the geotech material that they use on construction sites. Weed matting would also work, but I'm trying to go with something that will eventually break down. So this has some bigger bits and some smaller bits based on Hugelkultur. Hopefully will give us a really nice composting base. The next thing, which I should have done first, is I'm going to pop some scrap PVC towers with holes in at each end to make some worm towers to create compost, so the worms. This is my vintage caravan. This is where I was living and renting before Chioma came along. And as you can see, it's a bit overgrown by weeds and farmers' friends now. So this will eventually be our permaculture demonstration site, set up for a single person or a couple to live in the caravan. But at the moment, what it is basically the building scrap and wood pile paddock. So we need some materials for our project. I'm hoping to score some PVC and some Rio mesh, but we'll have a look and see what's around that we might be able to make work. So here's some PVC already, not a very big bit. Looks like there might be a couple in there that we could grab. Corey, this is all hardwood, so hopefully we will be able to use some of this for some of our building project pallets. Lovely mulch, that's for the garden. There's a beautiful established garden around the house here, so the owners will want to use that. I'll probably not be very well received if I use that. Here's the bonfire pile. As you can see, the base for the caravan was built up, and then they used the old terracotta tiles that used to be on the house. They were not original. So they've broken those up to fill up this pile here. We've got just all sorts of stuff. Bricks. This beautiful old piping from the house, some of that's copper. Some more hardwood bricks. Cat cage that might become a chicken coop. So Chioma and I are going to have a bit of a scrounge and see if we can come up with some good bits for our renting raised garden beds. Chioma, business manager, having a bit of a nap, and today we are working on building some worm towers for my raised garden bed. So we've just managed to pull these two perfect pieces out of the scrap, and we're going to drill some holes in. So worm sides for the worms come in and out. Basically we're putting one at each end of the bed, and we're putting compost or food scraps straight into it, and hopefully the worms are going to eat it and pull it through the rest of the system. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so we've finished putting our holes in. I haven't been particularly specific about where I put them. Tried to put a decent amount while still leave enough of the PVC to hold the scraps in. Alright, so I should have obviously put these in the bed before I put my leaf litter and Hugelkultur base in. So we've now got a bit of a hard job of making a spot. So we're going to be popping them in each end like that. They'll go down into the leaf litter. Worms will be able to come through the holes in and out, and we will feed one end first, pop our food scraps in here, and then when that's all lovely and composted, we'll start over this end putting food in, and hopefully that'll mean the worms will come from this tower, bringing all their nutrients and things through the soil to this end, and then we swap again. So that's the idea of the worm towers, having two in each bed. There's also a possibility, if these are able to be made, they are able to be made into wicking beds. This one isn't, but in a wicking bed, this would also allow for you to get some water down into the reservoir down the bottom. Alright, so here we've got our worm towers in the bottom section, ready to go on with our in-between layer and then some soil. So here's our finished product of our crop and roll raised garden bed. It's a bit hard to roll on the gravel here, but it is possible even by myself, so it's still light enough. There's one more thing we can do. I want to put a piece of Rio mesh as an arbor across the top, so we might do that on the weekend. We just need to build some formwork to bend it around. But here we have our worm towers. We've just covered with these plastic pots that we had spare. We've got our cabbages in, still a bit closer together than I'd like, but definitely far better than they were. Our snow peas at the back, they always go brown at the bottom for me. See, they've started to do that here, so it'll be interesting to see if these come good. If anybody has any answers to why that happens or whether that's just normal. I only ever get a few peas off them and before they all sort of die from the bottom. And then I've put some silver beet at the front here and a couple of nasturtiums in, which are looking a bit sad. That one's a bit better, but hopefully they'll come back just to bring some bees in. All right, so that's our crop and roll raised garden bed made from a recycled filing cabinet, and it's got a Hugelkultur base. So the next two prototypes we'll be working on is one that is a wicking bed and one that is potentially a pond. We'll see you next time.